listening to KMMU. That is Utah's um, mainstreammedia.utah.com. So .org. That is our radio station that you're listening to. It's also video because, you can't just have radio that's just noise nowadays. You have to also get to see each other. So this is the Liberty Mom Show. I am your host today, Delane England, and I have got two wonderful super moms that are going to be joining us. First of all, we're going to introduce Jamie Renda. Jamie is one of the founders of Path Forward, and she also is the prior owner of Brexton Potato. She started her own business, and she did sell that. Very successful, great business. And Jamie is definitely on the front lines of bringing Utah together and creating a lot of value, and totally on the front lines of liberty. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you very much, Delene. Sorry about that confusion on getting me on here, but I think we finally made it. So.
We are so happy to have you join us. That's the beauty of technology is it's not perfect like the rest of us. So it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. And when it does, it's great. So Jamie, you have been working really hard with Path Forward Utah. Before that, you were with Brexit and you changed to Path Forward Utah. Tell us about Path Forward Utah.
So Path Forward Utah, we have multiple missions, but one of our predominant missions was bringing minority community into the conservative cause, not by capitulating our values, but by finding the shared values that we have with the minorities in Utah. But that's not our only mission. That's just one of our predominant missions. And these voices are so needed for the fights that we're fighting right now. One is just the right thing to do. We're the party of Lincoln, and we allowed the media and the narrative to tell us that, and to tell the minority community, specifically Black Americans, that the Republican Party was not for them, and it is. And so that's what our effort's been in reaching out and finding those common values and building together. And their voices are so needed in the fight that we're fighting right now. It's been my belief, Delane, for 24 years I've been doing this, that Black Americans will be very involved in saving our country. And so
I agree with you so much. Oh, you're so right. That's such a good point. And what I love so much about Path Forward Utah is it is about healing and bringing us together, and it's so respectful. And I cannot even tell you how much I cherish the relationships with people that I have met through Path Forward Utah. It's just wonderful. Such amazing people. I just love them. They're so principled, and they love God. They love America.
I'm going to give a shout out for two people right now, if you're okay with it.
Please
But we have Pastor Rod Hall, who's running for State School Board District 3, and Carrie Bartholomew, who's running for District 13 of our State School Board. And
both of them are awesome.
They're fantastic. They both are part of Path Forward Utah, and their voices, their conservative voices, will bring a sense of reason to some of the things that we're fighting within our education system. And what I see with Rod is his strength is going to bring cohesion to the board, and definitely bring God back in that conversation. So he's just an incredible man. So anybody who lives in District 3, vote for Rod Hall. District 13, I don't know if we can do this on your radio station. So
we absolutely can.
Okay, so
we can. And you know what? We also would, because the way that we can is because we will open this up. If they want to come on, or anybody that's running against them wants to come on, I absolutely will give them a chance to come on. I would love to interview them. I'd love a chance to ask them why they're running.
Well, we definitely need to get Rod and Carrie on.
We absolutely do.
Yeah. Carrie has a beautiful message. She grew up in the foster care system. She aged out of foster care. She's biracial, and her fight against a critical race theory and DEI, she's just so knowledgeable in those, and SEL and other programs that are going into our school system. So she brings just a real depth of knowledge on that and the harm that it does to minorities as well as to our community at large.
Yes. And I did have Carrie on a few weeks ago, which she was amazing. She's a fantastic guest, and I definitely would love to have her on. I'd love to have Rod on, so I will get that scheduled because I'd love to have him on. as
And I
well.
know one of the reasons we're on today is we're talking about an event that's going to happen at Weber State. Do you want me to give a
Yes,
shout out for that event? So I've
that's
been
what I,
working.
yes, I very much like to talk about what that event is and why you're doing it.
Yeah. So one of the things, I mean, when I say Path Forward's involved in the outreach to minorities, but we're also involved in outreach to our youth. And so I've been working with Young Americans for Freedom, and also, and I just lost the name, um, Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA.
Turning Point,
And
yes.
so both of those organizations at Weber State, I'm working with a couple of young people at University of Utah and Utah Valley, as well as BYU. And so I'm trying to uplift their voices and give them more knowledge on how to approach their universities on getting conservative speakers in. And so Jared is the president over Young Americans for Freedom. And now I've just got to look up that date. Do you have the date and the flyer in front of you?
Yes,
It's
yes,
okay.
I will jump right on that. So,
Yeah, if you can give
okay,
that,
you
because
can tell us about your speaker. Tell us about your main speaker. She's
so
awesome.
the main speaker, and now I just usually I don't have quite as many problems as I'm having today, but 1 second here. She ran, oh, she shouldn't ran. Yeah, she did. She ran across the United States uh, to defend life. And so her book is 1 Mile at a Time, and in her pursuit to defend the life of the unborn. So it's Anna Strasberg, and the event is April 11th at 6 p.m. at Weber State University, room 280 in Linquist Hall. So Jared is just a sharp young man, and he's just starting out and didn't understand all the ins and outs. But I think they make it kind of hard for these conservative groups. Weber State recently brought in Dylan Mulvaney and paid $40,000 for, and it was a mandatory event for the leadership at Weber State to
Are
attend.
you serious?
No, I wish I wasn't, but I am. And so the leadership, and so only about 150 people attended. It wasn't open to the public necessarily, but it was the leadership event. And I'm trying to think of what leadership Dylan Mulvaney offers that would
Right,
inspire leaders. So
right,
I called
exactly.
President Mortensen out on that, and we had about an hour and a half discussion, which I think was very productive. This was just shortly, this happened at the same time HB 261 was being passed. And so that opened the door. And so right now I'm waiting to hear back. I'm probably going to end up having to do a grandma request, but I'm hoping that they're going to do a grandma request. Is I wanted to know how much money has been paid out to which speakers in the last 2 years at Weber State. Now, speakers that came and spoke free, I'm not going to ask that question, but I want to know the speakers that Weber State actually paid for in all departments. And it's kind of complicated because they don't have like a main source of speakers. Each department brings in their speakers. So, and I think maybe they do that for
Hmm.
the reason of not accountability. I don't know. I'm not going to guess. I'm just happy
Right.
that they're
It does
reevaluating
make it
that.
very hard to hold them accountable when they do it that
It
way,
it it, it
regardless of the
does. And
reason.
so
Yeah.
so I asked for, you know, and so it also makes it hard as I'm asking for that information for them to get it. So anyway, we have a lot of work to do with our university presidents, but President Mortensen seemed willing to work with me on that. I gave a list of about 14 conservative speakers I would like to have come in, and which they've honored one coming in September 16th this fall. And we're going to have Glenn Lowry. Do you know who Glenn Lowry is?
I don't.
He's an economics professor at Brown University. He and John McWhorter. And so I chose Glenn's really conservative. He's John McWhorter's not so conservative, but both of them are absolutely, they're two Black professors, and both of them are absolutely against critical race theory. They're against the DIE programs at the university. And so I thought, and I even put in Brett Weinstein as one of the people I would like to bring in. And so anyway, they honored that request and they picked Glenn Lowry. And Glenn's going to come in, and part of the conversation is going to be on John Johnson's bill. I believe it was SB 266 on bringing Western civilization culture back to core curriculum at the university level. So, anyway, September 16th, if you want to put that on your calendar, Weber State is bringing him in, and he has a hefty fee, kind of like Dylan Mulvaney. So it makes me feel, that we're at least got that money, leveled out a little bit. And so I've been helping.
So the university is going to pay for that?
Yes.
That is awesome. It's September
Yeah. No,
16th.
I put pressure on that. It's time that they balance it out with conservative speakers. And so again,
Jamie,
they
you're
are
amazing.
honoring.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is so
And
incredible. So they're bringing him in, they're going to pay for it, and they're bringing him into balances. I want to know, are they going to require the administration to go, the leadership?
I would hope that the administration want to go, and I'm also hoping that other presidents at other universities will want to come and listen to this discussion. We're also hoping to have Bob Woodson back in to be part of that discussion.
Excellent.
And then maybe, I don't know if you were here when we had Josh Mitchell and Will Crossley and Robert Woodson at UVU. Did you attend that,
Yeah.
Delane?
Yes.
So that was a
Amazing.
fantastic discussion that I wish every university, and we had all three of them that met with the university presidents back in August too. We didn't have as many university presidents there as we would have liked to have had, but we had several, and we had a lot of the technical colleges there as well. So this has been something that we've been trying to get the foot in the door at the universities and have these conversations. And again, like Josh Mitchell, I would not label him a Republican. I couldn't tell you what political party he's part of, but he is, and you heard him talk. He's the one that opened the universities in Iraq, and he's a professor at Georgetown University. But he understands the dangers of these theories and these practices that are going in, and recognizes that, one of the most beautiful things I think he said, and I won't quote it like he did, is that we become to know who we are and our identity as we build a community together. And our identity is not in our skin color. It's not in our gender. It's not in our sexual orientation. It's not, it's in when we're sitting at the table together, as we're building something together, whether that's a company, whether it's our city, our state, or a nation, or our universities. As we're building something together, that's where we discover who we are and what our identities are.
Love it. Yeah, it's all about our character.
But back on this event, I mean, I'm jumping I'm a major ADHD, but so
I'm so glad you shared all that with us, because that is amazing, and I am super excited. Everyone, put on your calendar right now, September 16th. That is, put that on your calendar so you don't plan anything else. Right before Constitution Day.
We need to come out and pull. Oh, I'm sorry, Delane. Go ahead.
What a great way to celebrate the Constitution.
Yeah. Oh, that is Constitution Month. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the day before Constitution Day. So that is a great way to really, that is just such a great, perfect way.
Maybe we can talk him into staying overnight and doing something the next day, especially if Mr. Woodson's here.
Yes.
But we need to show up in full force so the universities know that there's a demand for these conversations and a demand for debate.
Okay, so that is going to be at Weber State.
Yes.
And do we have a time?
We don't have a time yet, and I'm hoping we're going to have 2 times. I'm pushing for 2, one during the day with the students and one at night. So that's what we're negotiating right now, is if we can get.
We're going to have you on. We're definitely going to be promoting that as we get closer, because we're going to talk about that again. But get your calendar out and get that date, September 16th, because we do not want to miss that. That's going to be a great opportunity.
So I hope you would have Jared on. Jared is, again, over Young Americans for Freedom. This event, the first event, because it's just right around the corner, is Thursday, April 11th at Lindquist Hall in room 280 at 6 p.m. And this is Anna Strasberg, and she has been an activist on getting the message out for young mothers that, that it is life that you're carrying within you, and that she's been out there with her, using her talent, which is running and speaking, to defend the life of the unborn.
Yeah, she is really amazing. And that is April 11th in room 280 at Weber State. What building is that?
The Lindquist building. Lindquist Hall. Yeah.
Okay, Lindquist Hall. Fantastic, because there's a lot of buildings up there. So you don't know which building to find room 280. So that is something. And is that at 7 p.m.?
It's at 6
We
p.m.
have
Yeah,
6
6
p.m.
p.m.
Thank you.
Yep.
So 6 p.m. So you want to be there a little early to find the place because you got to get parked. Then you've got to find the building and then you've got to get into the room. So plan a little early and you want to get a good seat. And so put that on your calendar for April 11th. That is coming up pretty
So
soon. So
another just a shout out for these young organizations. If we have speakers that we can bring in, they get we had Ron Williams, and you've met Ron before, haven't you? Pastor Ron Williams,
absolutely.
the bodybuilder,
Yes.
just 7 times Mr. Olympia. I mean, oh, he's got so many different titles, Mr. World,
Right.
Mr.
Yeah.
Olympia. So anyway, he came and spoke last month at Weber State. And so again, we're just trying to nudge as many conservative voices in there as we can.
That
So
is so awesome, Jamie. You are just doing so much great work. That is so exciting. I just love what you've done. And this is a really great opportunity for everyone. Now, how much are the tickets?
they're free.
Seriously? Free? And
Yep.
do they need to get tickets in advance?
You know what? I don't think so. If it looks like but I'm going to have you have Jared on. You really ought to have Jared on to talk about
Yes.
this because I think it would be nice to hear from a young person why this is an important fight for them. And again, I'm just trying to uplift some of these voices. I don't know if you heard all the testimony. Well, no, you were there, so you did hear the testimony we had from the young voices at BYU and University of Utah, and so those are some of the people that we pulled in to testify for HB 261, and they all did a fantastic job. So
They were amazing.
Christian testified, Weston testified. Trying to think of who else testified, but we had 4 or 5 young college age young men testify for HB 261, and they did a fabulous job.
They made themselves, they made me very proud, and
Yeah.
they did justice to their cause. And Young Americans for Freedom, what an amazing, excellent organization. It's so great. And it really is wonderful. And it gives our young people some role models, and they can come together and they find out what that they can do. And they don't have to be the masses. They don't have to be the majority. Nothing great ever happened by the masses. And they can really make a big difference at the university and college level. And they are making a difference. They absolutely are.
But both
Really
Christians over Turning Point USA at Weber State and Jared over Young Americans for Freedom, when Dylan Mulvaney came in, they actually did a silent protest out there, and they got a lot of heat. So I just admire their courage too. They're actually out there, defending not just, the unborn life, but defending free speech and being able to take on issues like that at the university when it's not the popular thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really fantastic. Yeah, both of those are really great organizations, and it's really great to be able to work together with them. So yeah, I will keep talking about this, Jamie. This is a really great event, and I hope everyone will invite your friends and your family. Be sure to invite your young people. Invite teenagers and college-age kids and just post-college. Get them out there because this really helps them connect and link with each other and know what's going on and gives them some great role models with each other. And we need to build those organizations, and we need to absolutely. I love that you support them so much. And thank you so much.
You're
Jamie,
welcome. I'm excited to hear from your next guest on our local school board too.
Thank you so much for being with us, Jamie.
All right,
Yes, so now we're going to shift gears a little bit, not too much, but we're going to have another Liberty Mom with us, Melanie Mortensen, who is running for Davis County School District. And we're going to be talking about what is going on in education. Melanie, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Delane. I'm so happy to be here.
You have a wonderful family. So you've raised your children, and you're a prior educator yourself. So you know what the classroom is like. You know what's going on in there. And I think you've been able to see a difference in things that have been happening.
Significant,
and
yes.
We're both in Davis County. And so we are both really very aware of really what has happened to Davis County. It is, I don't even have words for it. It's so disappointing. It's so much beyond disappointing.
Yes.
What is happening in public education in Davis County. It's unbelievable and inexcusable. It's inexcusable. Like, are there no adults in the room here? What is happening to our schools? I feel for our teachers because
they are getting the brunt of it for sure.
Supported. Yeah.
Yes. No, it's
Okay.
interesting to me to see the tide turn, and I feel like there's a definite push towards ideologies and agendas that are not historically proven. And
Right.
so one of the things I've been pushing for lately, and that I'm most interested in seeing happen at the district level, is a recognition of and an awareness of the actual data involved in these decisions. And we've seen over and over again how our board makes decisions on what looks like a great program and what looks like a great policy, and that's it. And yet when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of it, it doesn't do any good for our kids, and it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. So why would we implement something like that when it doesn't have any benefit whatsoever? And in some cases, we've actually been able to track ourselves, because we don't get it from the district, that the test scores have actually lowered. And
Yes.
so all of these programs are not serving the students that they're supposed to serve, and yet we keep dumping money into it. There is no other business in the world that operates this way, where they say,
No,
give me more
there's
time
not.
and give me more money, and I
Mhm.
promise you a result.
Yes.
Well, okay, we'll give you another year or 5 years. And guess what? It doesn't work. And so
And
we
we
need to
and
get
we
back
and all
to,
evidence has shown that it is not
yes,
working, that it is
yes, we
destroying.
need to get back to the evidence, back to the data, and use that as our decision-making driving force.
Yeah, and we have a system that we've been using in Davis school districts. Um, I was just going to say it, and it just escaped me that
Summit?
we Summit. Okay, so we adopted Summit. Now, when they first adopted Summit, I know a lot of really good teachers like, oh, I love it. I love the platform. I love how it operates, which is
Mm,
very clever. But I once I was able to go in and look at the curriculum, because actually I was introduced by a mother who just said, "Oh my heavens." Her son was doing a lot of stuff at home, and so
mhm.
she was more aware of what was going on in the curriculum than most parents were. And she showed me the curriculum, and it was so disgusting. I just couldn't even believe it. And so I went to a lot of conservative teachers, or teachers that are very principled, who aren't necessarily Republican, but they want to teach
Sure.
the truth in the schools.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
want to have a good education system. And they were so surprised themselves, and they were using Summit. They were actually using it, and surprised because they like the kind of the system itself. They thought the system was really great. They liked the mechanics of it. They hadn't actually looked at the curriculum. And
Yeah.
how many years have we been trying now? More than 5 years we've been working to get Summit
Yes.
removed from Davis education
So
system.
it's been 5 years, and over the course of those 5 years, we've had thousands of parents
Yes,
begging, pleading, emailing,
yes.
going to board meetings, asking for
Mhm.
this to please be removed. We've also had hundreds of pediatricians and child psychologists writing letters to the board saying, my client load has increased. All of my clients are having
Mhm.
increased stress,
Yes,
anxiety, suicide ideation as a result of what you've done to the schools. So the
right.
interesting thing about that is, after 5 years of this consistent pressure, the board finally decided that they would revert back to Canvas and they would end their contract with Summit. The interesting thing about that to me is that Park City District tried Summit for 6 months.
Huh? Mhm,
6 months, and then they realized what a crap load it was and they got rid of it.
mhm. They
Six
did.
months. It took us
Yes.
5 years. And
It's
that's where,
inexcusable.
oh, well, that's why I have an issue with our representation, right? If
Yes.
I am
Mhm.
on the board and I'm representing my constituents and
Yes.
all of them, let's say even a majority, let's say even just a majority of them, 51%, are begging me to please get rid of Summit. That's something I need to look into. That's something I need to not just pat them on the head and send them away and say, give us another year, it's going to be fine. Because if it's causing problems now, they're not going to go away. And there's a whole nother issue with online learning and being staring at a screen that long, and child's brain development. And all of that aside, we don't have the representation that's listening to their constituents. And so that's something else I would really like to push, is for greater transparency, greater accountability from the board to their constituents, so that we have those conversations going on and we can be better representatives of what our constituents want to have happen at the board level.
You know, that is where it really comes down to, is representation. The reason we have Summit is because of representation. The
Yes.
reason we have
Or lack thereof.
pornography in our schools is because of the representation that we have who will not take it out. Not lack of leadership, total lack of
Right.
leadership,
Right.
and clearly lack of principles. Like you can't say they didn't know. You can't say, well, they didn't
Right.
realize.
No.
Because thousands of parents, and like you
Yes.
said, doctors were making them aware that this was very damaging to
That
kids.
this is a
And yet
problem. Yeah.
they refused to get rid of it. They refused to take it out. And then we have made them aware. In fact, ratedbooks.org has a list of 248 hardcore pornographic, well, some soft porn, but pornographic for real.
Till NC-17 and above should be out. Should be
Yeah,
out.
exactly. It's like it's hardcore to me. But anyway, it's pornography that is in our schools, and all they have to do, all the leadership, all of the school board members, and especially the president of our school board, all she has to do is go into the schools and say, here's the titles, we're taking these out. You must remove these. They have the power to say, remove these. They don't have to go read them. They've seen them. They have evidence. They know. They can look on the website.
Right. We have excerpts.
But all they have to do, they don't have to do all the research and go through every book in the library to find them. All they have to do is just go tell the principal, I want these books out of the school. Take them out. That's
well, not only out of the school, but out of the online catalog as well. We need to make sure they're gone completely. And there's this whole pushback about curating books in a school library. But let me just blow that out of the water, because guess what? School libraries have been curating books since the beginning of time. There's no way we can put every book in a school library as it is. We can't even do that in our public libraries. So picking and choosing which books go on the shelves is nothing new. And there's no reason why we can't pick or choose the best quality literature for our children.
And why wouldn't we pick and choose things that are positive and good, that are going to bring a wealth of richness and enrich the lives of children?
That includes different cultures, that includes different ethnicities, that includes different stories. And they may be really, really hard stories to read because of the disparity of the differences from what we know, but it doesn't have to contain pornography for it to be an enriching story or an enriching experience for that child. So
and never is pornography enriching or helping a child. There's
no reason.
There is never a time when you go, you know what, they really need to read that. They need to be exposed to that.
Never.
There's no excuse for it whatsoever. And yet it hasn't been handled. And that just tells you we have such a lack of leadership in Davis School District. And I don't want to just call out Davis, because I think we have a lack of leadership in a lot
There's
of
quite a few school districts that struggle as well. And it's interesting to me how they get stuck, our boards get stuck in the process and the policy. And I'm like, if it's too scary for you to stand up and do the right thing because you're worried about being sued or you're worried about offending someone, if it's the right thing, it's still going to be the right thing regardless. And I feel like I would rather
worried about being sued for doing the wrong thing. That's what I don't understand. Is like, how are they not worried about being sued for having pornography in our schools? And they should have been sued for having Summit, and they should be sued for having the porn in there, and they should be sued for having Summit for so long, knowing full well that it was damaging our children and damaging their education system.
Right. Their opportunities.
It's been far too long. So,
and
so
we just need greater accountability. We need our public to hold. I said we need greater accountability from our board. We need our public to continue to hold them responsible and to not let them off the hook, and to require answers, to require data. Let's ask the hard questions and let's keep pushing until we get the answers, because they are so good at talking in circles and giving you a non-answer that doesn't answer the question. And so if we can have specific questions, and I would say starting at community council level, when they come, the administration comes and says, here's what we want to use our land trust money. Let's ask for specific data on how this program or that expenditure of those monies are going to benefit our students. I want to see some hard data before we vote on this. And that's what a community council is supposed to do, is representing your parents at large to the school and being able to decide for all of the parents that go to that school or whose children go to that school, how best to improve it for their benefit. And if we're just doing wishy-washy, agenda-based, feel-good type policies, it's not going to actually benefit. It's not going to help our proficiency levels. It's not going to help our children and not prepare them for their next steps. And that's our whole goal. That's our whole point. Davis's motto is learning first. So that's
Right.
what we need to base all of our decisions on. Does it help with the learning? And we've had
Well,
proven examples that all of this feel good, support the whole child thing does not help with learning. So let's stop being
well, it's
substitute
learning what
parents.
first is really the question. Learning
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they are learning, but what are they learning?
There's not
So,
anything that's going to be helpful.
yeah. And I mean, it really is it's so heartbreaking and so sad because you see so many children really have life-altering things that have happened to them, and it's very difficult for them to overcome. It is possible, and they do. They can.
Yes, yes.
But
And it's asking a lot of them, right? Because these are kids.
yes,
These are
they're
kids having to
just
make these
kids.
huge decisions. And I feel like there's a lot of we all know junior high and high school. That was a tough time. Everybody has
Mhm.
a tough time. It's a very emotional experience for all of us. That's why we say we would never go back. That's why we say it's the best and the worst years of our life, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like we can have high expectations for our students. We can have compassion for them and the struggles that they go through
Mhm.
outside of the classroom and even inside of the classroom. But if we have those high expectations and we have that faith and that confidence, they know that they're going to rise to it.
They
And they're going to
do.
be able to overcome that. And we're going to be able to help them in the best way possible.
They deserve to have the best environment and have a real education.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
really they deserve it, and we owe it to them, and we are funding that. And we should
Yes.
stop funding
Yes.
all of this rotten garbage that's getting into our schools. We need to stop
I
funding
was
that.
talking to a couple of constituents this week and they said, well, I don't have kids in school. And I said, but you still pay taxes.
Yes,
So
you're
we
still
are still
paying for it.
accountable to our constituents for how we spend their tax money. And
And
with
the
an eight,
reality
I'll say
yes,
we have an
finish.
$8.3 billion budget that was passed this year by the legislature.
Mhm.
That's a lot of dollars. That's a lot of accountability. And we can do that. We can totally do that.
Yeah, that's why I say we are funding it,
Yeah,
but we need to fund it correctly. The money is
exactly.
there. The money is there, but
Exactly.
it needs to go to the right places and the right people and be
Yes.
spent in the right way.
Yes. That will
So,
best
yeah,
benefit our kids.
yes, that's right. So there are solutions, and they're not even that hard, but it does take
Absolutely.
leadership. It takes
Absolutely.
a leader to implement them. Okay, so what do you see as what electing you,
Yes.
I guess you see as an answer. So what are you going to do that's different than what we've been doing in the past, Melanie?
Well, so I have a lot of plans to lead. I have a lot of priorities that are very important to me. I would like to help train our community councils better and help them understand what their role is, and it's not just a rubber stamp job and a vote
Mhm.
job, right? You're a representative. This is your basic grassroots level of representation at your school for how we improve that school, right? The school gets land trust money from the state, and they get to choose how they spend it and what their goals are. And there are some parameters there, right?
Of course.
But by and large, we can train our community councils to seek for the best things, to seek for the good, the beautiful, the effective. And so I would love to start there and help them understand better their role. I would also love to start with accountability and to have that open communication with my constituents so that they can help keep me in check. I don't think I would be the kind of person to get lost in the swamp. I've never been one to be dishonest or deceitful in any way, shape, or form. That's not who I am. And yet I feel like there's a lot of really good people on our board who are genuinely good people. And yet somehow they're so lost in the policy and the process, and they just don't speak the same language anymore.
Mhm.
But there's never been any conversations publicly and regularly from that position to the constituents. And so that's something I would like to create. And whether that's a Facebook page or my website or an email I send out or whatever that looks like, so we have that open communication and I can say, here are the votes coming up in the board next session. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's the research that I've done. What do you think? And I can get the feedback and I can be representative that way in how you want me to vote in those decisions. That's hugely important and something that we don't have in this position right now. So that's something I want to bring. So those would be my first two. And then we can go off into selecting high quality curriculum that's actually proven and effective instead of stupid crap that makes our teachers have to come up with half of it on their own.
Right.
And then we had a lot of good bills passed this last year, one of which I want to try as far as the classroom management situation goes, to help teachers get the support and the resources that they need to handle those classroom incidents when they arise. I'd love to work with our admins and have some good support for our teachers from them. And I think 90% of that's happening already, but I think there are some cases where we can improve. So.
Yeah, you know what? You bring up a point that we haven't really talked about is that really part of education is educating the parents.
Yes.
Because I think part of it
Yes.
is the parents don't really know what is going on in the school. They don't realize the pornography in there. They just send their kids to school. Okay, you can go take care of their dog.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm just gonna close the door.
They don't always realize that the pornography is there because they're not aware of it. They don't see it. They don't always realize what the curriculum is, because parents, we kind of send our kids to school and then we send them off and then we don't really, know what is happening there because parents are busy living their lives and they send their kids to school. And, the thing is, I think that most parents, we like the teachers. We like the teachers. We go to parent teacher conference, we meet them, we like them. So we think that everything's okay. And I think people don't understand what teachers are being subjected to and what is happening and what teachers are, how much their hands are tied. I know I have had numerous, like really a lot of friends, and I'm getting up there. So of course they've been teachers for a long time. A lot of my friends, they've been teaching a long time, but they have quit teaching even early, or they're barely hanging on waiting until they can retire because of what is happening in the schools. And they're saying one of the things is how many illegal children from illegal immigrant families are in the schools and that don't speak English. And so they said, I can't really even educate any of the other students because I'm spending all my time just trying to help them learn English. That should be a totally separate class.
We can't do any content. Yeah, I have a friend who's an ESL teacher at an elementary school, and they cut her position. And I was shocked, thinking, why would you? It is a Title I elementary school. Why would you cut this position and restrict her capability to help these children when that's exactly what we need right now?
Yeah.
And I don't know what other funding issues were going on at that school, so I hesitate to blame them too much if they had to make priority changes. But if we're going to expect these children to come in and be educated, yes, it needs to be a separate class. It needs to be, we have to think outside the box.
School.
Yeah.
I think people who don't speak English, regardless of whether, of their status, if we're going to educate them, they need to go to a school, and you don't join the other public schools until the children are speaking English. So that that serves them, because then they are immersion and they are just all in for learning to speak and communicate. Then they get to go to a school that gives them incentive. It helps them really learn and focus on those things. Their time is best spent. And then they go and they can absolutely immerse with the rest of their classroom, and they can be treated equally in the same. And then that brings everyone, the rising tide raises all boats. So,
exactly.
Yeah, and that would just help. And I know I presented that idea to numerous teachers, and they just love it. They go, that would help so much.
That'd be amazing. Well, and I love the idea of teaching the family too, because now we're not driving a wedge between the children and the parents where the children can speak, because they'll pick it up quick, right? Faster than their parents will. But there's no reason for us to divide them from their parents and make the parents unable to participate in the process or to understand what's going on at the school when they get to that point. And so I love the idea of a family involvement education, kind of a let's help you enter into this culture here that you're new at in the best, most supportive way possible. And that can be with the schools, but also it could be with the community.
I think
we
it
have
needs
so
to be
many
the community.
resources with our community that are underutilized because we throw everything on the schools. And then we have teachers who are overwhelmed and overloaded and want to quit early because they're being asked to do everything themselves.
Everything. Yeah.
and they're not being compensated for it. So
And there is a movement. There is very much a movement to make the schools the community center where the schools take care of everything.
yes, there is.
So I really feel like we have to, that is not what schools are supposed to do. And we
Nope.
don't want the schools replacing the family or God or the community.
Or taking any of those choices away from the parents.
Absolutely.
This is a parent's prerogative
Yes.
to be able to choose
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z for my child, where we get our haircuts, where we go to the dentist, where we go to the doctor. Those are a parent's choices. And if
Yes.
we take all those
Absolutely.
away, that's that more of that separation that we're driving. And that whole child wraparound services do not serve our families whatsoever.
And
They
they
claim
do
to.
not serve the families that, and
They
they
claim to.
end up bringing a wedge. The educators become, and the education system becomes a wedge between the children and their parents. And we never want that. It's supposed to be a supplement and support the family
Yes.
and support the parents in educating their children. So that's why I think that the language is not really the job of the schools. No one should be going to a public school who doesn't speak English. That's the job of the community or the
Mhm.
family themselves. Frankly, the family, if you come to America, it is your job to learn to speak English. But really, people aren't supposed to. No one can literally come to America legally without speaking conversational English.
Oh,
That
interesting.
is one of our guidelines. That's one of the
Yeah.
bars. The minimum
Yeah.
bar is, in order to come here legally, you have to speak conversational English. You don't have to be fabulous at it. You
Sure.
just have to be able to speak
You
conversational
get by.
English. If you can do
Mhm.
that, then you can get by. You can immerse in the culture and in the country, and then you can, strengthen those skills, obviously.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
kids pick up language really fast. They're really good at it. So
Yes,
it
they
doesn't
do.
take children long. If they can go and learn the language, they will pick it up quickly, and then they can get into the classroom, and then that will help every other student,
Oh, well, and it alleviates
including
so much personal
educators.
frustration for them, right?
Yes.
Where they're trying to learn a concept in a in a
Mhm.
foreign language. I can't imagine the frustration that they must feel, and you know, for the poor teachers, the poor students, like it's just a lose-lose system. And so
It
we can
is.
rewrite that. That would be, I think that's absolutely something we could do.
Yeah, it's very doable. And
Mhm.
again, we make it the responsibility of the parents. The parents
Yes.
have the responsibility to take their children to some kind of, and themselves to some place where
Mhm.
they can learn English.
Yeah.
And that really is that is a parental responsibility. And that just changes education completely. It just totally changes it.
It
The
helps the
other
kids to be more
problem that we
successful.
have,
Yeah.
yes, for total success. The other problem that we have is the DEI, the critical race theory, and clearly the trans movement, which we know is very much a social contagion on purpose. This is designed to be a social contagion because it's a new industry that seeks to make a lot of money. Planned Parenthood was very open about this. They said, if we do an abortion, it's $500, one and done. When we
Hmm.
do transgender, because they don't do the surgeries, but they do the therapy
The
and they do
therapy,
the
hormone
drugs.
therapy.
The
Mhm.
hormone therapy, they say, when we do, one child is 500,000 to 600,000 per child. When kids with children, the adults don't do it that often. Not very many. It's very low percentage of adults that will seek to change, which to do something they can't do because you can't change your sex. But adults don't do it very much. But children are still growing and finding, and find me a kid who doesn't have body issues, ideology issues. That is so common when you're growing up and your body's changing. You
Yes.
feel very weird and your
Yes.
hormones are changing. That is a natural thing that's been going on since the
The beginning of
beginning of
time.
time, since
Yes.
Adam and Eve.
Yes.
So that's always been an issue, but now they're focused on how to make money off of this at the risk and the expense of destroying our children,
Our
our
child's
innocent,
well-being.
sweet children who
Mhm.
have been traumatized or who struggle with body ideology or gender ideology, struggle with it. And if they're left to their own devices, they're left to just grow up. 98% of boys will adhere to their real
Yes.
sex, and
Yes.
88% of girls will adhere to their own sex just by the time they're 18 years old. And
Mhm.
then if given to be 24, 25, if they're not pressured into it and not pushed into it. And so that is a place that this should not even be in schools. It should not. You can't change your sex, and schools should be teaching truth. They should be
Right.
teaching healthy body ideology, not
Yes.
supporting something that's not true and supporting something that is not healthy for our
Hmm.
children. And that is, I
Absolutely.
feel, a very strong responsibility of our schools.
And that's something that we've asked teachers to do that isn't their lane, right? We need to take
Right.
that responsibility
Mhm.
off of our teachers. It's not their job. That's a
Right.
parental job. We'll give it
It
back to the
is.
parents. And
Mhm.
regardless of whether the parents are doing it or not, it's still not the teacher's job. That's if the parents aren't taking care of that, that's where we can turn to the community. So much gets put on our teachers to cover and be substitute parents, and it's unfair to them, it's unfair to the kids. Look, I had wonderful relationships with my teachers, and I had um, really, really good equity, not equity, sorry, but just a solid classical based education.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we need to do. Let these
Yes.
teachers teach. The whole reason that they came to this profession in the first place is because
Yeah.
they love kids, they love their subject, they want to see them grow. And I tell you what, that moment when you teach something and you see that child have that aha and their eyes
Mhm.
light up and they finally get it, whether it's math or art or
Right.
English or history or whatever it is, it's a beautiful moment. And
It
that's what we
is
want
more
as
than a beautiful
teachers.
moment because it literally makes a difference for their life. It
Exactly.
literally changes
Exactly.
the trajectory from the steps forward. So it is
And that's when we're
incredible.
teaching truth. When
Mhm.
we're, like you said,
Yes.
when we're teaching truth, those moments happen. And we don't need to address all of the other stuff. That's something that they can take care of at home. That's something they can go to a counselor for. Again, that's a community issue that they can be taken care of there. We are here to teach children. We are here to teach education. Your
Yes.
reading, writing, and your arithmetic, right? This is what we're here to help prepare you to be a critical thinker and to be able to be prosperous in as you step into the world for your next steps, whatever those may be. That's our job as teachers and as educators. Everything else is secondary. And if a child is having issues, that's okay. That happens. Like you said, this is,
Yeah.
junior high, high school, whatever. It's a
Mhm.
very emotional time anyway. And there are hard things that happen to everybody. And the advent of social media has made that worse. And the
Yes.
advent of the alphabet mafia has made that worse. But again, that's not our school's issue. We are here to
Right.
educate.
If we
We're here to
just stick
teach.
to the core purpose of education, it's amazing because
Yes.
look at what we created through our education system of America. We created the most prosperous, most free nation where people
Yes.
were truly educated. They went out and started businesses. They became very productive, very
Yes.
happy, very healthy, raised happy, healthy families. They got
Hmm.
married. They
Their
shared that.
creativity was nurtured. They were able to have ideas
Absolutely.
and to follow their dreams. And that's what America's all about.
90% of inventions
Yes.
90% of
That's
inventions
amazing.
in the world came from religious Americans. That is a
That,
statistic that is real. It's like because
that's awesome.
it wasn't because it had something to do with their Christianity, other than they were just given, like you said, that light, enlightenment,
Hmm.
free thinking, and there was just this respect for other people. And we just created this environment, and where we're living under a constitution that protects your copyright and your patent on your invention, on your creativity. And it just where it's not that Americans were more creative than people in other countries, is that we have the opportunity, and because those creations were protected, there's more opportunity, and then there's more incentive. We know when we invent something here, it's going to be patented. We're going to receive the proceeds of our labors. You
Right.
create something in China, you know you will not receive it. You know you're
It
not
gets
going to
taken.
benefit from that. It will be
Right.
taken from you. So there's no incentive to be creative and do better. And
Yeah.
so it is just a natural law. And that, yeah, just so great. If we would go back to the core of what we're education is,
Yes.
we'll change the world again. We'll
Absolutely.
reinstitute that
And it's
greatness.
possible. It's been done before. We can do it
It's
again.
been done
It's
before
absolutely possible.
under very similar circumstances. We were
Yes.
living under absolute despotism and tyranny at the time of the Revolutionary War, which is why we had it. And no different than what we're dealing with now. And yet we were willing to make those sacrifices, willing to stand up and take a stand. And it paid off. but it was
Yes.
a great sacrifice. And we're not asked to go out into physical battle with guns. We're asked to battle in ideology. But we got to stand up and step forward. And I
Yes.
want to thank you, Melanie, for standing up, stepping forward, for sticking. You've done it before. You're an amazing candidate. You're an amazing mother, an amazing Liberty mom, an amazing woman, and a great friend. And I really appreciate how much value you create. And I'm really glad that you're in the race. And I just wish you all the best and really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much, Delane. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your kind words. I am so grateful to be in this and to have your wisdom to draw on. And I'm just so grateful for you and for the Liberty Moms and the example that you are to the rest of us. And I think we all share in that, and we draw on that from each other, and we give each other courage. And it
Yes, I
helps
love
us
it. And
to stand another day.
yes, and we can fix this. I love that there
Okay.
is hope and we can fix this, but we have to
Absolutely.
make
We have lots of
sacrifices.
good people out there. Lots of
Yes.
good people. And
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, we really all want the same end result. And what we differ in is how to get there. And if we go by proven, tested practices, we'll get there, and it'll be
We'll get there.
wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us,
Thank
Melanie,
you.
and thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you'll have a beautiful day. And remember that you are the guardian of your liberty. Thank you.